Welcome to Next to Madison, a podcast to help you live your best life.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Next to Madison. On today's episode, I'm sitting down with an amazing comedian. I've actually performed with him multiple times. We've had a lot of fun. We were in Chicago. We've done New York. We also have common friends in common. I guess I can't even speak, whatever that may be, friends that know each other. That's how we met. So we're going to talk about comedy. He had a awesome movie that came out last year that if you haven't checked out, you definitely need to go see that. It's called The Opening Act, and he can tell us more about that and also his career and just the amazing stuff he's up to. So that being said, let's bring on the amazing and hilarious Steve Byrne.
Whoa, I cannot live up to that introduction, Madison. There's no way. How you doing? It's great to see you.
Yeah, you too. How's everything going with you?
I'm here in Los Angeles, just recording some podcasts out here, and then getting back on the road. And I'm spending this year working on a new. I basically have the hour ready, but I'm just trying to get it ready to film. So I'll be filming a fifth hour later on this year.
Well, that's exciting. So tell us. So where are all your first, second, third, and fourth albums available?
I think they're all like on Amazon and iTunes. The last one was on Showtime, and the one before that was on Netflix, but they all have contracts that expire. So they're all acquisitions. So they don't live there forever. So they're all out there on probably Amazon, iTunes, those two.
Okay, awesome. And so the fifth hour, I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah, it's fun. It's been something I've had in my back pocket for the last 4 years. But like you had mentioned, I was working on a film for a good 3 years of that, and then COVID hits, and I was getting ready to film it just before COVID, and then COVID came along and shut everything down, and now we're coming out of COVID, and no one knows when these things are happening. But I got the word that it's going to happen this year, so very excited. It just I got to get the reps in, as you got to get back to the gym, and we gotta shake the dust off and take the jokes back to the stage, and it's just trying to find the melody of the jokes again.
So how has comedy changed for you now with COVID when you had so much time off where we were forced off stage? Like because I've heard people say, I realized I didn't need to be doing the grind, like out every night, multiple spots a night. Like I realized that wasn't necessary, and I was burning myself out and getting frustrated with the process versus enjoying it now, where I'm more picky about what I do.
Yeah, for me, I loved it. I mean, as soon as everything shut down, it's like, oh, this is fucking great. I don't have to get on a plane. I don't have to pack my bags. I don't have to go to so-and-so. And I always knew, look, at some point, everything's going to go back to normal. At some point, we're going to get back to the real world. And so I'm just going to enjoy every second I have that I get to spend home with my wife and kids. Yeah. And we were in Los Angeles, especially at the first half of COVID. And as things started to kind of open up in Florida and Texas, my wife and kids were like, let's get out of here. Like, let's go. And not only go, but let's sell our house. So we sold our home in Pasadena, went to Florida and bought a home in Nashville. And a lot of friends that I have in LA, they lost a year of their lives. They weren't able to do anything. They and everybody has the right to have their own perspective of how to deal with COVID. I was leaning more on the side of being a little more open about everything. And it doesn't seem like it's going to affect me because I'm under the age of 65. I'm not obese. So maybe let's go live our lives. So we went to Legoland. We went to Disney World. We went to movies. We went out to dinner. We've had a lot of memories over this last year. And it was a very unique experience. So I'm glad to have had it. And now things are starting to open up again, and I'm going back to work at the comedy club. So it's I think I played it for me as well as I could have.
Yeah, that's how I was too. I mean, I think it was when it first started, everyone was naturally a little scared. You didn't know. And I was sitting in New York at the time where people were just dropping like flies. So you were wiping down your groceries and washing your hands 100 times a day. And then I came out to Colorado at the end of April of last year. Things were a little more open. And at that point we had learned more about it, and I lived my life, and I didn't feel like we were shut down anymore because I just went out and enjoyed it. I wasn't going to let the fear and the media bring me down.
Yeah, look, if I lived with my parents, or my mom was living with me, my father, then I probably would have been a lot more cautious about things. Or, if I had a family member that was, dealing with respiratory issues, of course, I'd be more cognizant and aware of that. But look, you're right. At the first few months, like nobody knew what the hell was going on. So it's like, all right, let's just stay home and do our part and watch the news, and they're telling us what to do. It's like, all right, let's do that. And then all of a sudden, there's these two factions giving information on this side and information on that side. It's like, well, I guess maybe I'll live a little, and I think it was that. It was like, I want to be informed, but I also want to stay sane. So let's go out and kind of get back to normal.
Yeah. And you got to, it was just, it was a weird year. I mean, looking back now, there were so many cool things that kind of happened, and so many, I wish I would have done that during COVID, which was
sure
the point in March. But, because the markets were fucking kicking ass this year.
Right. And anybody who is single during COVID, you got to be calling exes. That's never fun. It's a different experience, right? But with kids and a wife, it was like, as somebody who just never gets to see them, it's like, I want to maximize this moment in time. And driving across the country was one of the best experiences I've had, obviously, over the last year with them, and experiencing everything, going to the Alamo and New Orleans and everything else. It was just great.
Yeah, and that's amazing. So that was a big decision, though, you selling your house and leaving LA, where, because before, like with our industry, you really had to be in New York or LA. Those were two major places. And I think with COVID, it really shifted a lot of people's perspective on things and what they wanted out of life and for their families. And so what made you choose Nashville?
It's a city, every time I've been there, I've always thought I could see, now that I have kids and a wife, obviously, and a family, I'm just like, I could see myself living here because there's an entertainment factor. All the major agencies have a representation there. And it's a great city, and everybody's friendly, and there's a good mix of politics. I'm not someone who's hard left or hard right. I'm someone who's a lot more objective, I believe, in, especially as a comedian, at ridiculing both sides and not choosing a party line entirely. I like to shit on both sides because I think that's kind of a little more punk rock that comics should do. But every comic in the world seems to, mainstream, lean incredibly hard left. And I'm just not that way. So I don't drink the Kool-Aid. And that was a part of it too. And there's a good mix of acceptance of hearing that in the comedy clubs, especially in Nashville, where you could shit on the left, you could shit on the right, and everybody's got a sense of humor. But you go to San Francisco, if you, you dump on the left in any form or fashion that's maybe a little more risque, you could alienate the audience. So it's, I appreciate that. And I think the quality of life is a lot better too.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's because California and New York are they're just so, they're just expensive. It's not even worth it. I mean, New York, you're living in a shoebox. LA, you're living in a house, but the taxes are through the roof. So it's like you put your ass off, and it's going half to these people who don't know how to balance a budget.
Yeah, in California, I will say it's a little exciting because at any moment you have wildfires, you have water droughts, you have gang warfare, earthquakes, and then like the most threatening thing in Nashville is like too much country music because I don't listen to country, and it's like it's a lot. So that's the most threatening aspect of Nashville. It's like, all right, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll go there.
Yeah, I love country music. I always have. It's been like, because, if you really listen to country, it's like good old stories,
Yeah, it's like,
beer.
Yeah, I mean, hip hop music, which is so popular, is all about going to the club, blinging, money, hoes. And then country music is all about just like, my mom had cancer. I want to go on a picnic with you. Let's get a beer. It's all like simple things versus like grandiose big day dreaming, which is hip hop. So it's very, very different.
No, yeah, it absolutely is. So are you guys living near downtown, or are you more out in the suburb?
Yeah, we're in a suburb called Arrington, so it's maybe 30 minutes outside of downtown. But we make it into downtown. There's a great park. There's a pedestrian bridge that goes over. The kids love it, and it's so different. It's just so different. And the minute I get off the airplane in Los Angeles, I drive to Pasadena. It would take me an hour and change, and you're in the middle of traffic, and you're thinking of, oh, I got to get to the Comedy Store tonight. I got to do this. I got to turn this script in. I got to do this. And the minute you go to Nashville, it's like you have responsibilities, but you're not sitting in traffic. There's no traffic. Even what they consider as traffic is like, guys, this is not traffic.
Right.
And then you're just like, there's horses, there's cows, there's, a beautiful sunset, and things just, I don't know, you can breathe a bit more. It's like, it's a slower pace. So all of a sudden you kind of feel a little more at peace within yourself too. And so when I do come to Los Angeles, it's like every time I come here, I have an objective. I'm here for a reason, as opposed to just being like, I got to do this, I got to do that. You're all over the map. And there I can focus, take the focus, bring it over, execute, go back and recalibrate.
Right. So that's where it kind of makes it a little more, you're getting shit.
Yeah.
Just kind of lollygagging around.
But how's the move been for you you're going from New York City, which New York and LA are obviously their own beasts within themselves, but you're going from quite the frantic pace as well. And then you're going to someplace a lot more, probably similar to Nashville in some regards in Denver. How's that been for you?
It's been good. I mean, this is just a temporary kind of move.
Yeah.
I didn't own my apartment, thank God, in New York, because real estate got crashed. So most of the stuff I got rid of. Other stuff I, put in a storage unit. And, it was interesting because so many people were moving out. If you put your stuff in a storage unit in Manhattan, it was, $300 for like a 5x8, right? Yeah. But if you went just over the bridge to Long Island City, I got it for $86. I'm like, I'm not going here every day. I'm going to go over the bridge. But to show like how many people had done the same thing. Yeah. And so, I'm just going to kind of go where I need to be when I kind of figure out, where projects are. And then it's kind of a freeing feeling too. And I think it opens up more opportunities because I'm not locked in somewhere anymore. Yeah. But I am enjoying a different pace of life. I kind of look back and I laugh that I paid so much for a shoebox. Yeah. Back now I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? But at the time, I lived in New York when it was the best time to live there. And you did too. I mean, New York was amazing. I mean, now I talk to people and, COVID's not the concern, it's the crime. So I'm going to go back there and, in a few weeks and for some work stuff. And, first thing I'm packing is my pepper spray, which I never thought I would say, but, it's quite wild out there. So that's the thing that people kind of, are scared of the most. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. If I go back, I mean, all the comedians I know, I don't know about you, but everybody's upgraded their apartments because the real estate fell so much. So everyone kind of got a bonus.
Oh, that's good. Well, that's good to hear. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's going to be fascinating to see how the LA scene, the New York scene are affected by all this. I mean, people are going to come back, restaurants open up. I just wonder how soon or how slow it'll be in terms of entertainment. But look, with Broadway not being around, with movie theaters just opening, I think comedy for the tourist especially is going to be kind of the option to go to. Yeah, because I even though they're at limited capacity, but you go to like Florida or Texas or Tennessee or whatever, it's literally like 2019. It's like nothing's happened. It's right back to normal. I think people will formally wear a mask when they walk into a restaurant, sit down, they take it off, they eat, they bullshit, they talk, they put it back on when they exit. It's all just theatrics.
Right, because it doesn't really you're still breathing if it's an airborne virus. So
yeah, I mean, it's, I fly once every 2 or 3 weeks, and it's so funny that, when you're in the line at airport security and you've got to stand 6 feet apart, and literally 30 minutes later, you're fucking crammed in a metal tube sitting, arm in arm next to people. It's just like, guys, what are we doing here? I understand the guidelines, I understand precautions and everything, but it's so arbitrary. It really is. It doesn't make any sense. So I try to be respectful to those that maybe are dealing with somebody or living with somebody. But at the end of the day, I'm just going to go on and try to live my life.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best way you can be, right? Because
Yeah.
we look back and we can't get this time back. We're all getting older no matter what.
Yeah.
And none of us know when our exit time is. So do you want to spend it living in fear and then you get hit by a bus next week? Or do you want to live your life and be happier when you get hit by a bus? Well, not that you should get hit by
Yeah.
a bus, but you know what I mean? Like none
Or
of us
you
know
could
when we're
live
going
your
to
life
die.
and get COVID and die. So, I mean, there's like, it doesn't matter. But I think as long as, the more we learn about it, the more it seems like, there's people more at risk. So let's obviously accommodate them. But I think the rest of us can kind of get back to work.
Yeah, and that's starting to happen, which is good. It's
Yeah.
just I'm just waiting for the day that the mask can come off because it's not healthy to be breathing in the stuff you're supposed to be breathing out. And
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot of health uh, repercussions from it. About
Well, everybody gained. I mean, the average American's put on 20 pounds over COVID. And the crazy thing is that we're getting, a variation of a flu shot in spring. And so
right.
the thing is, you've got to get the shot again in 6 months. So that's something you don't hear perpetrated in the news. It's like, go get the shot, go get the shot. And then my new neighbor, his wife is a pharmacist. She's like, oh, you got to get it again in 6 months. And I'm like, oh, you don't hear that in the news. So it's like, well, I'll just wait until the fall when it's actually flu season, when this is more rampant, when we're not inside as much as we are today, when we're outside at outdoor festivals and everything else. So I'm going to kind of wait. If I do get it, I will get it in one shot, the Johnson & Johnson one, and I will wait until, the fall when we're in flu season. I think that's the way I would map it out, but that's just me personally. And we have the freedoms to do these things, but you will be vilified by one side if you choose one side or the other. So I'm just trying to be, respectful to all.
The vaccine is such an interesting thing. Like, I don't want, I'll be honest. I don't want to get it. I don't feel I need to get it. I just had COVID 6 weeks ago. I had a mild fever for a couple days.
Oh, so you have the antibodies then.
Yeah. So why would I get it?
You should be fine. Yeah, exactly.
It sounds crazy, but for me, like COVID was great. I lost 5 pounds in 3 days because I didn't really want to eat. Yeah. I got in the shower and I was like, damn, this is the tightest my stomach's ever been. I mean, I was bending over trying to get a roll. Like, this is great. But then the downside is I was tired for a month, but the appetite came back. So then I put it all right back on. So
there
now
you go. Yeah.
Okay, back to the gym. But for me, it's like, why would I go overcharge my body with antibodies? But people are very, it's a touchy subject, right? Like, we politicize so much. We politicize the mask. All of a sudden, you didn't want to wear a mask. You were automatically a right-wing person, and was like, what does that have to do with anything? And now it's not the mask anymore. It's the vaccine. And it's so funny because they just did, they're having all these celebrities, try to convince you to take the vaccine. I go, guys, that's not going to do it. The only thing a celebrity is going to sell me is like an anti-aging cream if they look great. I'm not doing anything a fucking celebrity is doing because I don't give a shit, right? But if their skin looks good, I'm on board. But like, I'm not doing it because some girl in a thong bikini with 2 million followers told me to get a vaccine. Fuck that.
Sure. It's like the last time we heard from you fuckers, you guys ruined John Lennon's Imagine. So fuck off. Yeah, there's no need for any of it. Yeah, I don't know. I think everything, you're right, though. Everything's politicized. I mean, you look at the breakdown of what a news broadcast is, your local news on a CBS affiliate. It's hard news, followed by weather, followed by sports, and then a feel-good story at the end. And you would get your news and politics in the first 10 minutes. And now news and politics has permeated the weather because it's all climate change. It's polar caps. It's all this other stuff. It's, greenhouse gases. It's all this shit that is just like, you can't even talk about the weather. Oh, it's a nice day. What are you talking about? It's hot as fuck. And, the polar caps are melting. It's like, fuck, okay. All right, let's go to sports. And it's like, now it's the anthem. It's BLM infiltrated with, now it's Pride Week at the NHL. And it's just like sports was the ultimate escape. And now you can't escape from everything you're trying to escape from. So it really is like indoctrinated everywhere where you can't just get away from it. It's pretty depressing at the end of the day. So it's everywhere.
It is. But
Yeah.
I think, I mean, this is just my thought that we're going to such an extreme level. Like the pendulum is
Yeah.
moving so far before it starts to bounce back the other way. So hopefully we're
Yeah.
so far this way that it's going to start, becoming normal again. But we just don't know. I think that the internet has obviously given power to people that never had power, and they like that
Yeah.
power. And so it's just become like a total shit show. But I have a friend who is worked in the hospitals, is in healthcare, and was in the hospitals when people were dropping dead. He was venting people. He's seen death like you could never imagine.
Sure.
And I had asked him if he was getting the vaccine, and
Mhm.
I was expecting him to say absolutely, and you should too. But the answer
Yeah.
I got was hell no.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And he goes, why? What? No, I don't know what's in that. It's a rush vaccine. No. And the
Yeah.
majority of healthcare workers don't want to get it. And I thought, well, that's eye opening. So I'm just trying to wait as long as I can. I think what's going to make me get the vaccine is if somebody said, here's a great job opportunity.
Right.
You can't have it unless you put this in your arm. Then I might cave. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you're right. I mean, there are those stories where it's healthcare workers, a certain percentage, it's almost like half, don't feel like getting them. And then there's another one where it's like the military, it's the same thing. Um, uh, Nursing home workers, it's the same stats kind of across the board. So it's like, I think unless I saw like kind of across the board enthusiasm for people that are really, really, truly exposed to this stuff, I'd probably be on board. But I think it probably is too early. So it's like, let's wait and see. I mean, it's something like over a quarter of Americans have been vaccinated. And then I'm sure probably over a quarter have had it. So hopefully when you get 50%, we can build herd immunity from there, and we'll see what happens.
Right. No, it's an interesting time. But let's talk about, on a happier note, your amazing movie, the opening act.
Yeah, it was fun to do. It was, released during COVID, which was kind of crazy because I remember we were editing the film, and back when things were normal, telling my wife, it's like, okay, I'm going to get a tailored tuxedo. We're going to get you a very nice dress, and we're going to wear this at the premiere when this movie comes out. And she's like, great, we're going to party. And so the film comes out during COVID on VOD. And I got my tuxedo, I got her dress, and I said, honey, we're going to wear these in the living room tonight when the movie premieres. So that's kind of like, it's what we did. So it's, it was, but at the end of the day, I still had a movie come out. So a lot to be grateful for.
Yeah. And how was that? That was your first time directing a movie.
Yeah, it was my first time directing a feature, with a script. I had done a documentary on The Amazing Jonathan a little bit ago, but that, documentary is just kind of doing some interviews and going through archival footage and assembling that and making sure you have your story beats. But this was a scripted feature, which was a lot different. It was a lot of fun. When you're directing a feature, you're running a business, basically. You have all these different people that work for and with you. You're all on the same team at the end of the day, asking you about a sconce or a lighting or notes or the story, and you're facilitating everything. So it's pretty overwhelming. It's kind of like being a triathlete all at once. You're swimming, you're biking, and you're running all at the same time. It's draining, it's exhausting, it's long hours, but it's one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had professionally. Okay.
No, that's an amazing experience. So do you think directing is kind of in your future, doing more of it?
I think so. Yeah, I really enjoy it. I would definitely do it again. I've written some things, and I'd sold a script, and we'll see what happens with that. And then I'm getting ready to pitch this TV show that I just wrote. So we'll see. I mean, I like being the conduit of the story, especially if I write it. I don't know that I would read something and want to direct that. I need to really be invested in it, because if you're directing something, I mean, you really are fully immersed in the story in every aspect of it. And I think when you write it, you really know everything because you've thought it through. You know the story, you know the beats, you know the turns, you know the motivations, you know why this person did this and how that's going to tether to this. You know why that's setting up there to pay off here. So it's like all those things you're in charge of. You can still get that from reading it, but I think just me personally, I like writing it and then executing the vision of what it is I had sought out to write in the first place. So I definitely would like to do it. And I'll tell you, I don't know how people write something, direct it, and star in it at the same time. I think that's way overwhelming for me.
Right. I know. Because it's just like, oh my gosh. But I guess they, obviously they have somebody else that's kind of directing them when they do their scenes.
Yeah, I think you can rely on your assistant director and certainly your cinematographer to line up the shot. But I just think to have all that responsibility of everything and knowing you got to make your day and budget, and then you got to focus on perhaps a dramatic scene or really, really physical scene or whatever. It's just like, I mean, my hat's off to anybody that does, especially all three.
Yeah, absolutely. But so your movie had quite a cast in it. I mean, you had Roy Wood Jr., Bill Burr, Jimmy O Yang.
Yeah, it was. Well, I've certainly done this a few times. So it's about a comedian's very first time ever going on the road and encapsulating all the failures that are going to happen to somebody, because if it's your first time, you're new to it. And so it's bachelorette parties, it's introductions, it's the light, it's all the things that people have been to a comedy club, but you've never been on the road. And that's really what the film's about. So you have Jimmy O Yang as the MC, Alex Moffat from SNL, the feature act, Cedric the Entertainer, the headliner. You got Whitney Cummings, Eliza Schlesinger, Kathleen Madigan, Angela Johnson, Bill Burr, Tom Segura, Neil Brennan, Roy Wood Jr., Felipe Esparza. I know I'm missing somebody there, but Russell Peters. Just a ton of great comics.
I mean, that's an amazing cast. It's just like a powerhouse cast. I remember when I saw it, it was before it came out. We were at the Improv. I was opening for you at the Improv in Chicago, or outside of Chicago, and we watched it that afternoon. It was really impressive.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to get to see that. I think it is, with everything that's out there and everything I've heard about and variations of it, I think it is the most authentic version of stand-up comedy. I think it's the most authentic version of what it's like to start in the profession of stand-up comedy. But at the end of the day, really, I think it's done so well and so well received because it could be anything. It could be an artist, it could be a painter, it could be a songwriter, it could be anything. The film happens to be about stand-up comedy, but ultimately it's about having the drive and initiative to take a chance on yourself and ultimately be at the very beginning of discovering your voice. That's really what the film's about.
Right. Which applies to everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's kind of like taking that chance, and no matter what industry you're in, every time you start, you're going to have failures.
Exactly. Yeah. And the failures are all lessons that you build upon. And every time you fail, you just know, okay, now I'm going to be that much better. I always say it's a graduation. Failure is a graduation of successes. So that's all.
It is. And you are a comedian, obviously. How do you stay so positive? Because there's a lot of comedians that are very depressed, but you were always up and happy and ready to take on life. At least that's my take of you.
Sure. I agree with that. I think I had a very positive, healthy upbringing, but also at the end of the day, it's like, this is the fucking greatest job in the world. You get to talk about whatever you want. You can wake up literally at 6 p.m. and still not be late for work. You can dress however you want. You can drink on the job. You could do drugs if you want. You go to all the greatest cities across the country, the major markets. You get to be a tourist during the day. You get to meet people that you wouldn't normally meet. You get to hook up. You get to meet people you're attracted to. You get an invitation to go to places you would never go to. You get to travel and do USO shows. It's like, this is literally the greatest fucking job in the world. How could you ever fill out a tax form at the end of the day and think to yourself, this is what I do for a living. Life sucks. You're out of your fucking mind. It's the greatest job in the world.
Yeah. And so that's probably why you love it so much. I feel there are some comedians that might be doing it just to get to that next step. And so they are miserable. I'm sure people, I know people. But it's like, you don't have to torture yourself doing something you don't really love.
No, look, once you know that everybody that's involved in this business, whether you're an A-list movie star or you're just getting started, everybody has some fraction of themselves that's not doing exactly what they want.
Yeah.
You could look at the most successful people, and you and I have both met some of them, and some of them are pretty miserable, and they have everything. And so the happiness is never going to be, achieved by an accomplishment. The happiness usually is in the journey, it's in the experiences. And as a comedian starting off, when I packed my bag and I left school in Ohio and certainly my home in Pittsburgh, and I go to New York City or you go to Los Angeles, you get there and you think of all the things you want to accomplish. Especially my generation, the sitcom was the ultimate goal. You wanted a sitcom, right?
Yeah.
I got to do a sitcom. I got to write and direct a feature film. I got to make a documentary. I've done all the late night talk shows. And every time you do them, I've never felt like Tom Brady raising the Lombardi trophy. It's always been more relief than anything. It's like when a marathon runner crosses the finish line, they just kind of collapse.
Yeah.
It's like all that hard work, all that dreaming, all that stuff. It's like, oh my God, I fucking did it. And maybe you feel good about it, but I've always felt like, for me, it's always been just like an enormous sense of relief more than joy. But when I look at the resume and everything, I'm like, yeah, I am pretty happy with those things. I am happy with these things. It was funny. I was just talking to a friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about COVID. We were talking about our industry. We were talking about the business, being on stage, all this other shit, and what makes us happy. And I said, it's so funny. I was having a shit day the other day. And it's just one of those days, nothing was going right. You're hungry, you haven't eaten yet, you're going to eat lunch, and then a fucking construction, bulldozer pulls in front of you. It's going 20 miles per hour. You're like, fuck. It's one of those days where nothing's going right. And then I go play hockey that night, and it was a shit game. We lost. Nobody's playing well, selfish players, etc. And I get off the ice, and I'm just in a shitty mood, and I go walking out of the arena, and I see my wife and kids, and my son, who is 5 years old, walks over to me. He doesn't say anything to me. And as I'm walking, he just comes over, holds my hand, and starts walking with me. And I was like, wow, that's it. Like, that made me so happy. And it took away all those things. And I was thinking about that moment, and it stuck with me, how it made me feel in that moment and the perspective of it all. And I was like, that might be one of the most impactful things in the last few years that happened to me, where I was like, I'll remember it, and I'll remember how happy it made me and how happy I was in those few seconds, And I think that, you derive happiness wherever you wanted to find it. But that day for me, it kind of came out of the woods for me.
I mean, and that's amazing, because you do have a family and kids, which is a good balance to have.
Yeah.
I think a lot of comics just, they grind and grind and grind, and they put off, certain things like family for a while.
Sure. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, they wake up and they realize maybe it's too late. And
now, Madison, are you talking? Are we self-projecting here, or
no?
we...
No. You're going away. Is this?
He's out there, Madison.
You?
I know he's out there.
No. No, I'm just saying. I mean, that was a little bit for me, but now, I did have a wake up call where it was like, life is full of everything. Like, you could do everything, so not to put certain things on hold. But no, I was talking about other people who have just gotten much older, and things maybe haven't gone.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But at least
I'll tell you,
support system, which is so key.
You need it, yeah. A great movie about that is About a Boy with Hugh Grant. It's such a great film, and the whole film starts off, no man is an island, and he's a playboy. He's a guy that doesn't have to do anything. He's kind of like a stand-up comic, and he doesn't have a real contact or relationships with anybody. And then, of all people, this little kid ends up coming into his life and waking him up to let him know, hey, you should give a shit. And I remember I had done these, I remember I did like the Tonight Show, and right from there I flew to Vegas, and I did a run of shows at the Palms in Vegas at the time, which was like a great happening casino. It was a great show. It was always packed. And I remember I was just like kind of high off it all. And I was just like, but I'm by myself. And I was like, wouldn't it be great to like share this experience with somebody? Wouldn't it be great to have gone to the Tonight Show with a girl and had that experience and then go right to LAX, get on the plane, go to Vegas, do a run of shows, and share those 72 hours with somebody instead of just being by myself and then doing the Tonight Show, get on the plane, go to Vegas, do the show, try to meet somebody cool, maybe hook up, have some drinks, wake up the next day, and then spend the whole day by myself and then go do the show and try to do the same thing that same night on Saturday. It's like, I was just like, I remember it really distinctly when it all happened. And I was like, I want to meet somebody and not keep doing this over and over and over again.
Yeah. So you decided that. When did Jessica come into your life?
She came into my life pretty quickly because I was 32 when I met her. So
you
I
manifested.
wasn't like, yeah, I really did. I didn't, I was single for so long in New York City. I was just like, I was kind of over it when I left New York and I came to LA. Then you come to LA and it's kind of, and then everybody's in the industry or an actor or a writer or something. And it's just like, I just want to meet somebody different. I didn't want to hear the same things I'm going through because I hear it every day when I go to work, when I go to the cellar, when I go to the store. It's just like, we're all trying to be supportive. It's like, I need to take this from. And so I met Jess really quickly. And the minute I met her, I just kind of instantly knew it. Just, on our first date, I was just like, that's it. That'll do it. I'm done. And I'm glad that's the case because she's been incredibly supportive.
Which is amazing. So they always say, like, when you know, you know.
Yeah. I mean, that certainly was what happened for me. I don't know that it was so much for certainly for me. It was like, I just knew out of the gates. I was like, that's it. She's very grounded, very emotionally centered. She doesn't get frayed. And I think it takes a very, very secure individual to date a comedian because we have vampire hours. We're the center of attention. We're big fish in a small pond 90% of the time when we're on the road. And there's a lot of attention that's garnered with that. And you mix in nightlife and drinks and everything else. Yeah, I mean, if you're an insecure person, a comic is the last person you want to date. But fortunately for me, I had somebody who I could go to Miami Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I could go out every night and not call her for 3 days and come home and she'd be like, so how was it? I would never do that. I would call her, but she just wouldn't sweat it. And when that happened, I remember the first time that happened to me, I was like, it made me respect her more. And it made me appreciate that and made me privy and aware of like being out and being like, no, I'm not going to put myself in a situation because somebody trusts me so much so that they don't even ask. So because they've given me all this trust, it's like, I don't want to breach that trust. I want to fortify that trust.
That's why they say, like, you'll never have a really good, solid relationship until you're solid with yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that for sure. I think, unfortunately for us in the line of profession we chose, stand-up comedians, if a lot of us were mentally healthy or confident or appreciative of what we see in the mirror, we most likely wouldn't be doing this. but it's
true, yeah.
It's an outlet, and it's a great outlet. It's a very healthy outlet to share our insecurities, our phobias, all those things with a group of strangers that is cathartic for us as it is perhaps for them because they can see themselves in us. And so I think it's been nothing but a healthy occupation for myself. And I've always respected and appreciated the fact that this is my profession. And I just do my best to try to be as professional in a very unprofessional job. It's why I wear suits and, try to let people know I really do appreciate being here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because you do. You always have a good appearance on stage. I mean, most people kind of show up looking like they rolled out of bed.
Yeah, I mean, you go to the fucking Comedy Cellar or the Comedy Store and half the comics look like they're a hit and run victim. It's like, you're going on stage like that? Okay, you're a professional entertainer. This is crazy.
Yeah, right, exactly. I know for a while for me, it's different for girls, right? Because I guess when you get to a really high level and you're doing like theaters, it would be appropriate to wear a dress and heels. But if you
Yeah.
showed up to a weeknight spot and like
Oh,
got
sure. Yeah.
dress and heels, you look like an asshole. It'd be like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what
Yeah.
are you doing here, right? So it's a little different. And I remember when I started, you would wear like, you would look like you were going out, right? You were presenting yourself to the public, right?
Sure.
And I kept getting the, don't look too revealing, don't look this. People, you got to make the women like you so that they aren't jealous because their boyfriends are laughing. And finally I said, fuck it, enough. Like this
Sure.
exterior is different. And so I started just wearing dumpy flannels, jeans, no makeup.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, fuck it. And so I'd go on stage, and I never felt insecure going on stage in front of people without makeup. I never did. I didn't want a picture taken of me, but I didn't mind them seeing me live.
Yeah.
I thought, why the hell am I like not present? Like, I just need to be me. Like, if I want to
Sure.
wear
Yeah.
makeup, I'm going to freaking wear makeup. And if somebody doesn't like it, well,
Yeah.
then
My rule of thumb is the suit doesn't come on until, my rule of thumb is anything over 30 minutes and how many zeros is in that check. That's the factor. So if I'm doing city spots or if I'm going to the Comedy Store, sure. I'll wear like a jacket so I'm not coming up with a t-shirt or something like that. So you look somewhat presentable, but the suit only comes on when I'm doing over 30 minutes.
Yeah. No, but it looks good and it like fits your style.
Hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is good. Do you ever get nervous? I mean, you've been doing this so long.
It's funny. I was just in Indianapolis and I was working with a guy who worked with me in Cleveland. And he goes, do you remember the last time we worked together? I go, yeah, we had a good time. He's like, but do you remember in the green room what happened? And I go, no. He goes, you were asleep. And I had to come off stage as I was announcing you to wake you up. And I go, oh my God, yes. And I said, well, unfortunately, that's happened a few times because I am very relaxed on stage now. And I am relaxed before I go on stage. It just doesn't faze me. You could put me in front of 18,000. You can put me in front of 8 and it doesn't faze me. The only time I get the last time I got nervous, to be honest with you, on stage was when I did the goddamn comedy jam with Josh Adam Myers. And it's a fun show. So for your listeners and viewers that don't know what this is, it's a stand-up comedy show. It's really popular in Los Angeles at the Roxy, which is a famous music venue. Mm-hmm. And Josh Adam Myers does this show, Goddamn Comedy Jam, where he has comedians come out and we do 8 to 10 minutes of material. And then we recollect on a song that means something to us, whether it's funny or heartfelt or whatever it might be. And then you sing that song with a live band. And the show is a concert. People stand up, they dance. It's so fun. And so Josh has had me on the show a few times, and I don't sing. I am not a singer. I am the furthest thing from a singer. But, you're singing with the band, and it's fun, and it's nerve-wracking, but that is literally the most fun I've had on stage in years. Even on my best night, my best set, you're taking the euphoria of a melody that you love and is imprinted in your DNA via experiences, and you're singing it on stage with a band and living out every comedian's dream. You're being a rock star for 4 to 5 minutes. So that to me is not only the most fun, but I generally did get nervous before I went on stage because I'm like, what if I forget the words? I don't know, I'm not a good singer, all these things,
Yeah, no, that would, and probably most comedians aren't a good singer because if they were, they probably would be a singer.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, because I did the goddamn comedy jam before COVID, again, when things were normal, I'm good friends with the Impractical Jokers, and they invited me to go open for them at an arena tour of the UK. So I went, and I said, how much time do you want me to do? They go, 20 minutes. I was like, 20 minutes? It's a long time to do stand-up for somebody they don't even know who it is. So I was like, I'm going to warm them up. So what I would do is I do like 7 minutes of material. I do 7 minutes of Sausage Party where I create the boy band in the club. And then I would get off stage like at the O2 Arena and I would walk all the way down to the end of floor seating and introduce the Impractical Jokers, saying, are we going to have a good time tonight? Who's ready to party? All this shit, just amping them up. And I get to the back of the room and I'd say, okay, I'm going to give you 3 choices on the Jumbotron of a song we're going to sing together, because I'm Korean and I'm Irish, so I love singing and karaoke and all that shit. And two of the choices were dog shit, and so they always have to pick Mr. Brightside. And that's like a don't stop believing of like, you know, the last few years, where it's just everywhere. And I didn't realize this, but in the UK, it's a song that is charted in the top 100, Hot 100 ever since it's come out. It's broken a record recently where it's been like in the charts for over 10 years.
What's
It's Mr. Brightside by the Killers.
How does it go again? Sing it.
Well, I'll sing in a sec. But anyways, I go to the back. I go, we're all going to sing this. So I would say, everybody stand up, and you get the arena to stand up. I go, shake the person's hand to your left, shake the person's right, go in front and go back. And now everybody was shaking each other's hands, nervously laughing. But now it was kind of like communal, right? Everybody kind of broke that wall, and now everybody's doing this exercise together. The song would kick in. I would go down the line and sing it. And on the Jumbotron, they had cameras. So I'd put my arm around somebody. They'd look up. They'd start singing. I'd walk over to this guy, take his beer out of his hand. I chug his beer. He's singing. And then along the way, I would collect people with me. And just before I got to the front of the stage, I would time it out where the song builds to a crescendo. And then the Jokers came out and ran out, and they sang the last like chorus with me, and the place would go fucking nuts. And it was like my Ferris Bueller's moment, where I was in the parade singing Twist and Shout by the Beatles.
Yeah.
The arena's jumping up and down because the Jokers are out there, and the Jokers are singing, and I'm singing. I got the microphone, and we got 5 or 6 people from the audience on stage, and we're all singing, and the words are up there, and our faces are on the screen. And it was fucking great. And I was like, holy shit, this is what it's like to be a rock star. And you look out, you say goodnight, everybody, and the lights go up, and you see 20,000 people all screaming and going crazy. And it was like, this is the greatest fucking feeling in the world. And then you get off stage, and I was drenched in sweat.
Yeah. And
I was like, I sang one song, and you forget how much energy you use being like a front man or woman for a band, and singing and screaming and like dancing. And I was like, that was one song. It was 3 minutes. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know how Mick Jagger does it, or Bono, or whoever these people. It's crazy. It was that's great.
Like, that's an amazing, because they probably thought you were just going to go up there and just sling jokes, which would have been great because you're a fantastic comedian. But to have them all kind of a part of it, you know, so even if you had somebody who was like, I don't want to see this guy, I came here to see the Impractical Jokers, like, you got everyone to love you and get even more amped up. So it was like,
I think
amazing.
I think the key is to know they're not here to see me. And, you know, I could sit there and be an artist, but who wants to see that shit? It's like, let's make sure these fuckers have a good time. I want to set the table for these guys because I'm getting a paid vacation to go to, you know, Scotland, Glasgow, Dublin, London, Leeds, Manchester, Liverpool. It's like, it's the greatest fucking time. Those tours were that might have been my favorite tour I've ever done, is touring with those guys. They're the best.
What year was that?
It was last year. And then a year before that, I did it the last 2 years with them. Just great guys.
Yeah, that's amazing, right? I wonder how that's all going to change with COVID.
I don't know. You see, like Australia, they're back to 100%. There's concerts, people arm to arm. It's like, you know, if you can sit on a jumbo jet airplane, you know, from LA to New York, it's like, what's the fucking difference between that and the Comedy Cellar, or Gotham, or Stand Up New York, or the Blue Notes, or a multitude of other things? It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's just, you know, if you feel at risk, then, you know, don't do it. Don't participate. Stay at home.
Well, you have people like Dana White, who was the first to say, of all the major sports during COVID, to say, we're not shutting down. We're going back to work. Yeah. And he found Fight Island. He put some things on there. And once he did that, the other leagues took note and said, okay, maybe we can go back to work. We'll have to recalibrate how we do it, but maybe we can. And then you have Dana White once again leading the charge, going, we're going to do our next UFC fights in Las Vegas. You don't have to wear a mask. It's going to be full capacity. And it's sold out within, I think, like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So, that'll be a good barometer. And again, it's like the media and like, I think the elites, especially in California, will shit on Florida, will shit on Texas. But there were no major outbreaks. There were no major spikes. So it's just like, I think it's always somebody that's got to be at the forefront to pick up the flag and go, no, we can go a little bit further. And Dana White, for some reason, has been that conduit of, I guess, freedom of choice.
Yeah, which is great, which is what our country's founded on.
Yeah.
We need to keep it that way. But it's weird, like here where I'm at in Colorado, there's some counties that have lifted the mask mandates. And then in a couple weeks, I think everything pretty much goes back to normal. So I was in one of those counties where I know the mask mandate is no longer required. And I remember walking into a mall and I was like, what do I do?
Yeah.
I know I can't get COVID or give COVID at this point.
Right.
Stocked with antibodies, I'm good to go. So I was just like, you know what? If I don't start making a stance and people don't start seeing people without mask on, they're going to put it on their face. So I went to the mall and I had it in my pocket. So if somebody said, ma'am, can you put on a mask? Because I'm not a confrontational person, I would have said, oh, I'm sorry, I totally forgot. And then just put it on. But it was weird kind of walking through. But I felt like I was starting to set a tone, that it was okay to be free. It was okay. But it was like, you just felt the eyes on you like,
Sure. Well, I think it's all about the community you choose to be a part of and their ideology. I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and you walk around Nashville and people aren't wearing masks. Like I said, you go in a restaurant, you got to put it on, you sit down, you take it off, you exit, you put it on. That's kind of it.
I never understood the mask outside. I was like, no, I never mask outside, even in New York. And I remember people saying, don't you get dirty looks from people when you don't have your mask on? And I said, no, because I can't see it because it's behind a mask. So
sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not wearing a mask outside when you're supposed to breathe. And then I was in Los Angeles in November and you see people walking down the street with a mask on, but they were the only person on the street. And I'm like, you look like an idiot.
Sure, yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, you go to Tennessee or like where my folks lived in Florida, my folks are at risk because they're over the age of 65. And they were going to church every day and meeting with the parishioners at their favorite diner every day during COVID. They didn't slow down. I was like, geez, well, if they're not slowing down, maybe I shouldn't either. And then you go to California. I was in California. I went to a friend's son's lacrosse game, and every single parent had their mask on. And it's just like, okay, well, that's what you guys choose to do here. That's fine.
Yeah.
But then you go literally just on an airplane 4 hours away and nobody has masks on. And it's like the 4-hour flight, these people, no spike, you guys still doing it, same results. So I guess do it, or it's up to you. I just think it's ridiculous.
People are wearing the mask only because they don't want to be looked
shamed,
at, yelled at. Yeah. Right. They don't want to be shamed. They're just kind of like, you know what? It's easier just to put this on and, not have to worry about it. But for me, I'm like, I'm starting to make more of a stance.
Sure. Yeah.
Calls me in a store, like in Nordstrom's, for example. I walked into Nordstrom's. I was at the beauty counter and a manager came up with a mask in his hand and said, oh, excuse me, ma'am, I know the mask mandate's lifted, but Nordstrom's company policy.
Then you put it on, right?
So I said, oh, not a problem. Thank you. And I put it on. It was no big deal.
Sure. Yeah.
So you don't want to be that person that's in a private company store and then is sitting there, throwing a fit. It's like,
no, then 6 cell phones come out and you're on NBC News and you're getting shit on and then you lose your job and then you got to fucking apologize to everybody. It's like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And it happens every week on an airplane. It's just like, do you want to get banned from this airline?
Yeah.
It's like, make the choice. But, I get it. It's a business. They have the right to dictate the terms under which they operate. So it's like, if I want to shop here, I have the choice to leave. or I have the choice to stay. And if I want to stay, they're giving me a choice to wear a mask. So I'm going to. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I was on an airplane like a week ago. I was coming back. I was flying back from Miami, and there was a guy. I was sitting in this row, and then the guy in the other row on the aisle was sitting here, and he had a mask on, but it was like basically on his chin. Wasn't doing it. So the flight attendants kept asking him, "Sir, you've got to
Yeah.
put your mask over your mouth and your nose." And then he'd put it over his mouth, and then they'd come back, and he was having an issue with this. And me
Yeah.
being somebody who hates the mask, I know how to kind of get around all this and not be
Mhm.
confrontational. And then he said something, and the flight attendant, this is before we took off, just goes, I can't deal with this, and ran to the front. And I go, oh, shit. Are you kidding me? I was already delayed for weather for 2 fucking days.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
this asshole that won't even put a damn mask, just put the fucking mask on. Like, I'm against
So
it.
we
I don't
can
like
go.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I just need to get the fuck home. So I was sitting in the middle because I was lucky to get on the flight because my flight was canceled 2 days before. So the guy next to me, I'm like, hey, do you mind if I can you tap that guy on the shoulder? So he taps me on the shoulder, and I'm like, hey, I'm like, totally get what you're feeling about the mask. I'm like, I traveled a lot. I said, buy a thing of Pringles. It'll take you the entire flight to eat it, and you won't have to put on the mask. I said, or you can do what I do. Throw a fucking sweatshirt over your head or a coat. You're laying down, you throw it over your head. You got no mask on. You can breathe.
They can't see. Yeah.
And they can't see you. And it doesn't. So, and he was like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. And I'm like, thank you. I just need to get home. Please don't start a fight this way.
Well, what's funny is that an airplane, as claustrophobic as it is, the air is recirculated on an airplane every 2 minutes.
It's safer than your house.
Next to a hospital, it's one of the safest places to be in terms of being confined with a group of people. So the air quality in an airplane is very, very extremely safe. It's one of the few places actually you could get away without wearing a mask. But the company policy, I get it. It's the theatrics. If Southwest says you can't wear a mask, the media is going to donkey pile these people and shame them, and stocks plummet and all this other horse shit. So I get it. I totally get it. It is what it is.
Yeah, but hopefully we're getting back to normal in another year or so, that we won't even hear about this. I mean, in the New York Post, there's articles already gearing up for what they're calling is going to be the sluttiest summer of the century. It's like, wow, they're really going. I mean, we haven't even taken the mask off, and they're already talking about people just banging each other left and right. I'm like, wow, okay, we're going from one extreme to another.
Yeah, the New York Post has never been a beacon of journalism in the first place. It's page 6 should just be the front page, and then everything else after that. But yeah, I mean, of course, if you were young and single, first off, they were going out and partying anyways. It was anybody spreading this super spreader events, whatever. It was all kids. And I don't blame them. If I was 20 or 21, I would probably have been going out too, and going out and getting drunk and trying to hook up, because they were one of the least at risk.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they have to do what's best for them. And I'm proud of anyone, and I give them respect if they live life the way they wanted to live, and they didn't give in to the fear. I respect that. I do. Because so many people sat home and listened and believed everything that was told to them from Dr. Fauci, or whatever. I know his name is Fauci, but I call him Fraud. He's like a Dr. Fraud, basically.
Yeah.
I was like, this guy can't fucking make up his mind, right? So, and people saw fear, and this guy doesn't know if it's going to be sunny or fucking raining. I mean,
sure,
every day is a different fucking story. So I congratulate people that just said, you know what, I'm turning this fucking loser off, and I'm moving on with my life.
Yeah, you have the right to do that. You have the right to eat like shit and then put on a ton of weight. And, you have a right to go out and protest. You have a right to do all these things. Just know you may get vilified for it. There's a cost with what you do. You could get celebrated or vilified for the personal choices you make these days. So
I know, exactly. So it's like, choose wisely,
Yeah.
The thing is, like, be true to yourself and do what's best for you, but also respect those around you, that not everybody thinks like you. And that's the most important message of the day is for the left and the right, is not everybody thinks like you. And that's perfectly okay. Your job is to respect them as a human being,
Sure.
not vilify them because they don't think or act like you. I mean, that's what makes
Yeah,
the world such a beautiful place, is that everybody's different.
exactly. Yeah.
I don't want to hang out with all people that think exactly like I do. That's a fucking snooze fest right there.
Well, unfortunately, that's not the prevailing mindset on in either of the coastal cities where
No.
we hope to make an impact. So
So everyone should just be more like me and Steve.
exactly. Yeah.
The world would be a much happier place, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Just live your life, respect people, and
It would be a prettier place
yeah,
as well. Yeah.
right, exactly.
There you go.
Wait, so before we wrap up, you had the television show. I know we didn't touch on that, Sullivan and Son, which ran on TBS for 3 seasons, right?
Yep.
And it was a great show, but now you said you're trying to pitch another one. Is it going to be a sitcom type show again? Or
No, I did a sitcom. I enjoyed that experience. I think it's every kind of stand-up comedian's dream, of my generation for sure.
yeah,
But I think single cam I think you have a bigger canvas. You're confined to 3 or 4 sets on a sitcom, whereas on a single cam, the world is your oyster. You can do whatever you want with it. And mine will be set in the place of Las Vegas, and it's based off of the documentary I did on the Amazing Jonathan. And basically, the story is about an 18-year-old kid who leaves the continent of Australia to work for his idol, who happens to be a Las Vegas comedian magician and a drug addict. So you're putting an 18-year-old kid basically in charge of a 38-year-old man who's running around Las Vegas doing whatever he wants. So it's kind of a crazy situation, but it's all real life. It all happened. It's Joel Osborne's story, and I'm very excited to hopefully get to see it to fruition. We'll see what happens.
well, it sounds like you got a good, because most of Hollywood is pretty much, they're playing it a little safe. And so they kind of want established IP behind it. And it sounds like you have that. So you've really upped your chances of getting that done.
Yeah, we'll see. I think at the end of the day, it's about a great story and what is the relationships, and I think this is a very unconventional relationship, which is very interesting. And you throw in the element of Las Vegas, and you inherently have comedy involved in it right away. So I think it's good. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and have the blessing of both the guys. And the doc's done really well. So we'll see we'll see what happens. You just never know. You just need, you create a bunch of things, and you just need one to work. That's it.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for that one. It's coming
Yeah.
soon. I'm like, but everyone always tells me, they're like, you're in the game. I'm like, yeah, thank God my attorney decided to take me on contingency for the first year, because I probably racked up 100,000 in bills. They're like, you're really in the game. The fact that the attorneys are involved back and forth. And I was like, you're right. It's getting there. But that old saying is like, it just takes one. It's like,
It just takes one. That's it. Yeah.
I know. It's getting there. It's getting there.
As long as you're alive and kicking, you got a shot.
Exactly. Exactly right. And the other thing too, I've learned, in this business is, because I've seen so many people, and I'm sure you have too, their whole life becomes, comedy or Hollywood. And
Sure.
they're just sitting around waiting for somebody to tell them, oh, you can be happy, or you can buy this, or you can do this, or you can travel here. And I realized, I'm like, I'm not sitting around waiting for some guy that I don't know to tell me I can live in a big fucking house or go on vacation and fly first class. I'm like, no, I'm going to figure out other ways to use my brain to make money, because there's nothing scarier than having one source of income. So I think that's, and Mazzilli and I had this conversation. I said, things are going really well on this other shit I'm doing. And he goes, great. It's going to make selling a TV show that much easier, because when you walk in a room and you don't need that paycheck, your confidence is going to show. And I was like, you're right.
Yeah, exactly.
You walk in that room and you're like, this is going to change my fucking life. This has to happen. Either way, I'm going home to the fucking mansion that I got on my own. Not yet.
Yeah.
But I'll be.
Yeah, I mean, that's the difference between stand-ups and a lot of the working actors and actresses in Hollywood or New York, is that they are banking on that audition. They are banking on that gig.
Yeah.
And it's like, if we got that gig, it's like, great. Can I still go to the cellar Friday and Saturday and do my sets? Can I still go off and do the Columbus Funny Bone Friday, Saturday? So it's like, we already have our income. We already have money coming in as a stand-up comedian, but anything else is just bonus.
Yeah, exactly. So I always tell people, I'm like, learn another skill, you know, do side hustles, do, you know, podcasts that can take off. Like there's so many
Yeah,
other ways to make money, and it's just going to make you more confident and more creative
sure.
when you're not kind of worrying about all that bullshit. But you
Yeah.
have, speaking of podcasts, you have a new podcast out there. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's called Big and Hungry. I'm working with Brian Callen. He named the podcast. I don't know
Like,
what Big and Hungry is. He doesn't know what it is, but he
like
thought it
the
was
name.
funny. And it was like, all right, let's just call it that. And so we're maybe 11 episodes in, and it's been a lot of fun. He's just a great hang. He's an incredibly entertaining human being. And we're really starting to find our identity as a podcast, which has been a lot of fun. So it's been a great journey, and looking forward to many more episodes.
Oh, well, that's exciting. And so you're obviously on all the podcast platforms.
Yeah, yeah. Everywhere you get podcasts, we do video as well, so it's on YouTube. So if you want to watch it on YouTube, but it's Big and Hungry, and every fourth episode we do a live podcast recording at Zany's in Nashville.
Oh, okay.
And we did one in Los Angeles, and we always have special guests coming through, like Nate Bargatze, Josh Wolf, Gary Cannon, Sam Tripoli. We've had a bunch of other comedians on it as well, so it's been pretty damn fun.
That's awesome. Where are they
Yeah,
all
Theo
in
Vaughn.
Nashville now?
Theo Vaughn, Josh Wolf, Nate. Yeah, they're in Nashville. Angela Johnson's going to be in Nashville. I think Brian's contemplating a move to Nashville as well. So, yeah, you had this exodus where there's an Austin contingency, there's a Nashville contingency, but New York will always be New York, and LA will always be LA.
Yep, exactly. You just got to go where whatever makes you happy.
That's right. Yeah,
Not follow the herd. Do your own herd, right?
that's right.
Well, this has been great. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, everything I have is at Steve Byrne Live, Byrne. So all my social media is Steve Byrne Live. My website, Steve Byrne Live. And yeah, Craigslist at 3 a.m. You can find me. Misconnections, but yeah, it's all the same. So hopefully we'll get to gig at Gotham when Gotham opens up. Hopefully I'll get a date soon. We could work together again.
Yeah, that would be great. So, all right. Well, Steve, thank you so much. Hang on for 1 second.
You got
I appreciate all you guys listening wherever you're listening, at the gym, at the plastic surgeons, riding your bike. I don't give a shit. I don't judge, but I'm happy you're here, and I'm thankful you're here. So I'll see you next time to find out who's next.
Hey, your host here, Madison Malloy. Please make sure to subscribe to the show on all podcast platforms, and please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. Also, if you have any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@nexttomadison.com. I thank you again for listening. Bye.